Hey there, good morning, pro members. Coming at you with the pre-market prep. So it could be an interesting day today. We've got a gap up in the markets. The trend all week has been pretty much gap, strong morning and then, midday pull or end of day pull. And today we've got, as I wrote in the blog, we've got the new Fed release and the statement that'll be used for next week's meeting in front of Congress. And that could give us a glimmer of what's going on with interest rates and transparency moving forward with the new Fed. But and that could impact the markets. We'll have to see how that plays out. We got Warren Buffett this weekend, earnings after the close, and then their annual convention, and then next week that could be another thing that impacts the markets. But it's still been pretty choppy. Been saying all week, and we came into this week, or Alpha Wolf Trading, we came in pretty cautious because of the fact that we had such a big snapback in a short period of time. Thinking, technically, I mean, we're still looking like maybe we could go back down and retest those recent lows, and that doesn't happen. I mean, this bottoming, if we are bottoming, if that was a bottom, I think we need to go test that and confirm that that's a bottom. So that's why we're seeing some volatility, I think, and it's a process. It's going to take some time. So you don't want to chase, on gap up days like this. You don't want to chase. Probably gap up days probably one of the most challenging trading days out there. But let's go ahead and take a look at some stocks to watch for this morning. T-Mobile. We were just looking at that. Maybe could be interesting on a retest of this low here, 54.50 or so. See if that holds the support for a potential bounce. Rising interest rate environment. Typically, telecoms not the place to be, but worth keeping an eye on. T-Mobile potentially at this 54.50 area. See if that holds the support. CHK yesterday reported better than expected earnings. Nice little bounce, actually holding up fairly well in pre-market as well. Look, this is a thick stock, almost 1 billion shares. Looking for this to pull back to the $3 290 area, 285, 290. And that could be an interesting spot to take it for a swing or long-term hold consideration. Don't know if we'll get that opportunity, but 293 is a pivot on that. Like I said, more of a long-term hold consideration or swing, just because of how thick the stock is. There's a lot of insider buying over $4 and even in the $5 and $6 area for CHK. You're going to have probably some pretty decent resistance somewhere around this $3.50 range. So maybe we come up into there, test it, and then we come back down and test the $3 area and see if that acts as support for a bounce. But CHK worth having on the radar. GNC announced that the 87% of their lenders have agreed to an extension. So they just had a $300 million investment, $5.35 a share. This thing has popped up to $4.30. Pretty decent sized short interest here in GNC. I think 38%. It appears as though $4 is acting as support. So it got up to about $4.32. Maybe you look for a pullback into, say, the $4.15 range and see if that acts as support for a bounce. Day trading opportunity there, maybe a higher risk swing. But worth keeping an eye on GNC. Freshpet could be one to keep an eye on. A pretty decent looking daily chart here. $20 is a very big spot for this to try and get through on a weekly time frame if you back it out and take a look at it. But maybe entry at about $18. It appears to be acting as support. You got the 100 EMA there. And then you had Blue Buffalo, which just was picked up by General Mills for $8 billion. So looking at this one as a potential sympathy play, right? Pull back to $18. Could be a swing, could be a day trade, depending on. I mean, this has only got 24 million shares in the float and 16% short interest. Not doing a lot in pre-market, but worth keeping an eye on that one, I think, for a potential trading opportunity. HPE reported big, thick stock, 1.4 billion shares in the float, gapping up this morning. Maybe look for a pullback to 18.50, maybe $17, depending. I mean, what was resistance maybe becomes support. It is gapping up this morning. Let me see where it's currently sitting. HPE. It's at 18.50. You know, I was thinking maybe a pullback to $18, maybe a pullback to 17.50, somewhere in there. See if that holds a support. You know, this did actually have a pretty nice run into earnings, but it looked like a pretty good earnings beat. I wouldn't be surprised if we were to pull back and maybe test the $17 area. So it is gapping up this morning. I wouldn't chase the gap. Look for some kind of an intraday setup. B Cove, which actually reported decent earnings, already had a nice run, and it's right at resistance on the daily time frame. 33 million shares in the float, 4% short interest. This thing has had some big pops. It's also had some big drops. So wouldn't chase this one. Like I said, it's already had a run into these earnings. Maybe you look for a pullback to $7. See if that holds the support for a bounce. Beat on earnings, and this one has had some nice runs in the past. It's gapping up into resistance here. You know, this one could be more interesting on a pullback to say $32, $31.50 or so. See if that holds the support for a bounce. You got a lot of moving average congestion there, and we are testing. You know, we broke below this trend line here. We're now testing the underside of that trend line. Break back above 35.50. This only got 24 million shares in the float. This could get a little squeezy. Maybe you go back up and test these highs around $38. Let's see. HMSY reported earnings this morning. It looked like a pretty good earnings report. It's not really reacting to that report. Looking like, you know, $14.90, $15 is acting as support. It's not a great looking chart, but pretty good earnings and look like pretty good guidance. See if this winds up getting any action off of that. It's just over $15, $15.32. It's not doing anything in pre-market. I think it's worth keeping an eye on HMSY. 73 million shares in the float, 3% short interest. Worth keeping an eye on it for maybe a day trading opportunity. Possibly even a swing. I don't know. See if this this 14.90 holds as support. Let's see. EXAS. So look, this is getting smacked pretty hard. Actually sitting out at about 39.90. Now they had looks like a good earnings report, good guidance, breaking below the 200-day. And it's sitting at 39.90. This 39.50 area could be an interesting spot, or 39.50 to $39 could be an interesting spot for a bounce. You know, it's looking like they had a good earnings report. So I'm thinking a quick snapback trade there in EXAS, just a bounce trade. You pretty clearly defined area, right? I mean, you get it if you can get it at 39.50 or so. You know, you put your stop just below $39, right? So risk 50 cents, maybe you get a test back up into the $44 area. That's a pretty good risk reward on EXAS. Worth keeping an eye on it. So look, gap up day could be difficult. You know, don't want to chase anything. You know, look for a good intraday clean setup. Know your risk reward. Know why you're taking the trade, what type of trade it is. Day trade, swing trade, long-term hold. That's it. I'm going to wrap it and get this out. Good luck trading today. I think it'll be interesting to see how we close out the week. And I think next week could be a pretty interesting interesting week ahead with the big with Warren Buffett and the Fed, new Fed, in front of Congress next week. So, all right, be careful out there. Have a fantastic upcoming weekend, and good luck trading today.